Biden and the Democrats are very, very keen to ignore any of the concerns around the election result. Now, we know, and you heard this earlier, dead people voted beyond dispute. Mail-in votes were backdated according to whistleblowers. It appears as though voter fraud has been quite extensive, and it's gone on and on and on. But Joe Biden says, we won. Let's pretend that doesn't exist, and let's have the lefty media call it fake news. But there is actually a problem with this, and Bronwyn, you mentioned it earlier, because Biden said he would wait to declare victory until all proper processes had been undertaken. Here it is.
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it.
Well, Bronwyn, you raised the term of certification.
Yes.
There's the evidence. Biden agrees with you, but now he insists upon being the presumptive winner already. Is that hypocrisy?
Well, of course it is, but why are we surprised? He is trying to be and playing the gentleman on that occasion in that debate. All he wants to do is be the president. He'll be quite without power. The real power behind the throne will be Kamala Harris. And perhaps when we start to see what statements she's starting to make, we'll know what direction things are going to take. But the long and the short of it is, in 2000, when George Bush won, it was indeed George W. Bush won. It was indeed the 13th of December that a decision was made. So there's no great race. Trump remains the president until the inauguration on the 20th of January. Yes. There is no provision in the Constitution to have two presidents. You have one president at a time. So what's the rush? Let's do it properly and systematically, and that is what Trump is doing. And I do hope that people are concentrating hard on Georgia with the runoff on the 5th of January, because those two Senate positions will determine who controls the Senate and really what happens to America. And the thought of President Biden controlling both houses, even though the majority is reduced in the House, makes America so weak that I would expect that China could make a move on Taiwan if that happened, because there'll be no response at all. Whereas I don't think China would move against Taiwan if Trump had been re-elected or is re-elected, because he knows he will take a stance and will do something about it. And I find we are in a very really worrying situation with regard to what is going to happen in our part of the world.
Rex, I mean, Bronwyn's made a number of points there. One about, there's no rush to do this. We know that you think Biden is going to win, and so we'll just take that as, a dispute or a disagreement between us, which we're allowed to do in politics. But there is this issue about whether Kamala Harris is going to be pulling the strings behind the scenes, because Biden is seen as probably frail and not at his best. And then the second point that Bronwyn raises is the risk of China sensing a weak or a weaker United States. Do you see any merit in those arguments?
Well, look, I'll just go back to who's won and who's lost. You might talk about official counts and when they close and so forth, but from the Australian elections that on election night, when you reach a point where it's statistically impossible for the other guy to win, someone puts up their hand and concedes that they've lost, and the other person puts up their hand and accepts the win. That's what needs to happen and has happened here. Biden has won, and he's basically come out and now slowly moving towards his presidency. Now, Bronwyn raises a really good point. Taiwan is a really interesting point. We've seen the language changing from China, from peaceful unification, dropping the word peaceful. We've seen incursions, air incursions and naval incursions into territorial space of Taiwan. We've even had a very senior former diplomat coming out this week saying that that maybe the use of force is necessary because Taipei has very successfully marginalised the Communist Party. What we need to be doing is sitting down with the President-elect and forming strategies, making sure that we're all in the same book and there's a multilateral response that China understands will occur if indeed they decided to use force against Taiwan. The point is, I mean, you can say everything you like about Trump. We have to get on, we have to start focusing on some of these very important matters as Bronwyn's raised, Taiwan, the relationship with China, and some serious problems that need some considerable thought.